Hey guys, Sherrod at UPR here. Wanted to talk to you guys about something that's near and dear to my heart. That's Fox Body Mustang suspension. I've noticed lately that a lot online, even some of the Facebook groups, like let's say the Coyote Swap Fox groups like that, you've got a lot of people posting pretty much daily like, hey, I'm building this project car. What suspension should I use? It's a question that gets asked a lot, and so I thought, hey, let's make a video and share some thoughts. The thing is, there's no magic recipe. I mean, typically when a customer calls UPR, we're going to ask them several questions that lets us tailor a package specifically to their needs. However, we do sort of have our favorites, sort of what we would consider like an ideal situation for most cars. And in this case, you've got the 400 horsepower Fox Body, Coyote Swap, street car, full weight, and the guy just wants to have, you know, all the creature comforts, power windows, AC, power steering. He wants to drive this car, but the stock suspension's not going to work because the stamped steel arms, the soft rubber bushings, and he knows he wants to upgrade, just doesn't know exactly what to go with. Here's my recommended package for most people in that situation. Our street lower control arms, they're non-adjustable. They're made out of tubular chromoly, so they're really strong. They have a lifetime guarantee. They're TIG welded. These are energy suspension bushings. So our bushing package has a larger outer diameter and inner diameter than the other arms on the market, and that's what makes them really stronger and hold up to more abuse and more horsepower than our competitors. You can see in this case we've got it configured for use with the factory sway bar, and of course it comes with Zerk fittings so that you can lubricate the bushings, but they are pre-lubricated, so this is something that you would do later down the road. Anyway, another thing to notice about this particular arm being the street arm is it's not adjustable. On a Fox Body or a 79-04 Mustang, the only time you're ever going to adjust the lowers is to make essentially like a wheelbase change. We're not into putting thrust angle, you know, shortening one side and lengthening the other that moves the rear end like that. If you need that in your car because, say, it's been an accident or something like that, this is not, you don't fix something like that on suspension. So for almost every customer, non-adjustable lowers, that's what you want. This will allow you to put more power down without having crazy unpredictable handling from unwanted movement there. On the uppers, I like our Pro Street adjustable upper. This upper control arm is double adjustable, and what having a double adjustable arm lets you do is you can lengthen or shorten it to adjust the pinion angle in the back. And essentially this is all about maintaining the proper pinion angle, the driveline angles from the crankshaft, transmission, drive shaft, rear end, so that everything works smoothly and with no vibration. That's what you're doing. Typically, a lowered car is going to have the rear end will sort of pitch forward or nose down, and you're going to have to actually lengthen the upper a little bit to correct the driveline angles, and that's why we do an adjustable upper. This also has the same energy suspension polyurethane bushing with a large steel pin on the inside that lets you handle a lot of power. Actually, one thing that I was thinking about the other day in one of these threads online was a lot of times people will ask, well, what kind of horsepower can it take? And it's on a race car, or let's say anything over 1,000 horsepower, we're usually going to try to put somebody into our race suspension, solid bushings, everything is really firm, a lot of vibration, a lot of noise, but they're great for race cars. But we actually had a story, and this goes back, got to be more than 15 years. One of our customers had a Super Street Outlaw car, 10-inch tire car that was really, really fast. It was a 7-second car. And sold it, and the person that bought the car wanted to drive it on the street. So he's like, can I, what kind of suspension can I use with that much horsepower? I mean, will your street bars handle that? And we're like, of course, yeah. I mean, this bushing package is really good. I mean, the larger outer diameter, inner diameter, it can handle a lot of power. So this guy ends up putting our street suspension on a 7-second car, and it ran fine. He never had any issues with it. So is this what I recommend for a 7-second car in the quarter mile? No. But what I'm telling you is that even our street setup will handle a lot of power. So if we steer you this way, it's because it's quieter than the race suspension, not because it's less capable, let's say. But at any rate, double adjustable arm, polyurethane bushing to keep things quiet. That's a nice setup. This is actually an important part of this package now. This is the spherical bearing for the 8.8 rear end. This is actually just, you press out the stock piece, you take off this nut, push this in, thread that down, and now you have a spherical bushing that can rotate around there with basically zero bind. And the reason why that's important is because on a stock style 4-link suspension car, 79 to 04 Mustang, the upper control arms are triangulated. And what that means is they're kicked out this way, like from the rear end going up to the body, they're kicked out this way to kind of help position the rear end side to side and keep it from moving underneath the car. Well, if everything is too stiff back there on the upper control arms, the car can get into a bind, either when the suspension compresses, when you turn and it leans, several different situations while you're driving could cause it to go into a bind. It's not really an issue with the stock suspension because those soft rubber bushings in the factory points, they have so much give that even under a bind, it just kind of twists and it doesn't really matter. But when you're trying to actually put some power down and have some decent handling, bind could be an issue if everything is not pliable or there's no movement. So on the upper control arm, let's say that we're on the driver's side of the rear end. If here's the rear end, here are the arms, you've got this spherical bearing here, and then this arm going up to the body. This is nice and solid. So this end with the polyurethane bushing with the 1-inch pin here is keeping the position pretty firmly. However, this spherical bearing in the axle housing can articulate very freely around this bearing. So that's removing the bind. You'll hear a lot of people online that just sort of repeat information that they heard somebody say. They don't even know where it came from or why the person said it. They're just... On a 79 to 04 Mustang, you have to use stock upper control arms because of the bind, or you don't even want upper control arms because you want this setup or that setup. Listen, don't overthink it, okay? Like that, a lot of times that's not the advice I'm gonna give you for your street car, okay? The street upper arms with the polyurethane bushing and the spherical and the axle housing improves the handling, improves the ability to handle horsepower without wheel hop and unwanted motion. It's quiet because you have polyurethane instead of solid bushings all the way around. This really is the ideal setup for your street cruiser guy, 400 to 600 horsepower. Like this is it. This is the one. The only thing I wanted to add to this is that they don't automatically come with the hardware. The factory 12mm bolts will work with this setup. However, we offer the hardware kits for sale as an add-on, and what they actually allow you to do is not only are they grade 10.9, which is stronger than the stuff that's out there, but also they have nylock nuts. And what we want you to do when you install these upper and lower control arms is snug the nuts down, okay? So the factory torque spec is like 127 foot-pounds. If you do that, you're just locking these things down where they can't move. You know what I mean? It's almost like there's no suspension at all. Whereas if you lubricate these bushings really well with synthetic grease, not petroleum-based, and then install these bolts and nuts snug by hand but not over-torqued, the suspension will articulate very freely without any bind and without hurting any of the bushings. So this is what I'm calling the ideal setup for your 400 to 600 horsepower, maybe a Coyote Swap Fox, you know, a guy that's going to drive around on the street and wants things to be quiet, but handle a lot of horsepower and have decent, you know, cornering ability all the way around. This is your do-it-all package. And this is available at uprproducts.com, or you can call us at 561-588-6630.